Hey there, folks. Welcome back. Today, we're diving into a hot topic that's been making headlines across the country and stirring up debates in academic circles, on social media, and even in political forums. Harvard University, one of the most prestigious and historic educational institutions in the world, has just made a bold decision, and it's got people talking. Recently, Harvard University officially rejected a proposal that sought to modify its admissions policy in a major way. The proposal would have reintroduced the consideration of race as a factor in its admissions process. This comes at a time when the issue of affirmative action and race-conscious admissions is front and center in America's ongoing conversation about equality, merit, and education. Let's break down what happened, who was behind the proposal, what the university had to say about it, and why this decision matters, not just for Harvard, but for higher education institutions across the country. The proposal, who made it, and what it said. The rejected proposal was brought forward by a group known as the Coalition to Preserve the Harvard Standard, which consists primarily of Harvard alumni. These alumni expressed concerns over recent developments in national policy and court rulings that have shifted the landscape of college admissions, particularly around the use of race as a consideration. In their petition to Harvard's Board of Overseers, one of the university's governing bodies, the coalition urged the institution to maintain what they called a standard of excellence by ensuring that race would not be used as a factor in admissions decisions. Ironically, the coalition's petition actually opposed a return to race-conscious admissions. It argued that such practices, even if intended to promote diversity, could ultimately hurt Harvard's reputation, reduce academic standards, and provoke backlash from the public. However, some confusion emerged in the reporting, as the petition coincided with broader discussions around whether schools like Harvard should try to reinstate race-conscious practices following the U.S. Supreme Court's 2023 ruling that effectively banned affirmative action in higher education admissions. The recent debate at Harvard emerged in that larger context, with opposing sides disagreeing on how or whether to respond to that ruling, the Supreme Court ruling and its ripple effects. To understand this moment at Harvard, we need to go back to June 2023, when the U.S. Supreme Court struck down the use of affirmative action in college admissions. In a 6-3 decision, the court ruled that the consideration of race in university admissions violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. The ruling came after years of legal battles, most notably involving Students for Fair Admissions (SFFA), an advocacy group that sued Harvard and the University of North Carolina, claiming that their race-based admissions policies discriminated against Asian American applicants. The High Court's ruling forced many institutions to re-examine their practices and left others scrambling to find new ways to promote diversity on campus without running afoul of the law. In the wake of that decision, some schools sought creative ways to preserve diversity, for instance, by considering applicants' socio-economic background, neighborhood, or life experiences. Others chose to comply more conservatively, eliminating any policy that could be perceived as race-related. Harvard's recent decision not to reinstate race-conscious admissions, even indirectly, reflects its effort to comply with the new legal standard, while also navigating the competing pressures from alumni, advocacy groups, and the public. Harvard's official stance. In response to the coalition's petition, Harvard released a public statement reaffirming its commitment to diversity, but also made clear that it would not be reversing course or adjusting its admissions criteria to again include race. Harvard remains deeply committed to fostering a diverse and inclusive student body, the university said in its statement. However, we are also committed to upholding the rule of law. In light of the recent Supreme Court decision, our admissions policies must comply fully with federal requirements. The university went on to emphasize that it is exploring legally permissible ways to continue building a diverse student population. This includes broadening outreach to underrepresented communities, expanding financial aid programs, an increasing focus on first-generation college applicants and students from low-income backgrounds. But for now, Harvard has made it clear, race will no longer be a formal factor in admissions. The debate, diversity versus meritocracy. As you might expect, Harvard's decision has generated significant public debate. Supporters of the decision argue that eliminating race from admissions promotes fairness, meritocracy, and equality under the law. They believe that students should be admitted based solely on their academic achievements, extracurricular accomplishments, and potential, not their racial background. Critics, however, worrying that the absence of race-conscious admissions will result in a less diverse student body, reinforcing systemic inequities and excluding qualified students from historically marginalized communities. It's not just about checking a racial box, said one Harvard student who opposes the decision. It's about understanding the barriers some of us have had to overcome to even apply to a school like this. Removing race from consideration erases part of our story. On the other hand, some alumni and conservative advocacy groups applauded Harvard's decision, arguing that any form of race-based admissions is inherently discriminatory. Even if well-intentioned, there's no such thing as fair discrimination, said one spokesperson for the coalition that submitted the petition. We believe students should be treated as individuals, not as representatives of racial categories. What does this mean for Harvard? Harvard's decision will have both symbolic and practical consequences. As one of the top universities in the United States and the world, Harvard often sets the tone for other elite institutions. Its policies and practices are closely watched and often replicated. By choosing not to revise its admissions policies to reintroduce race as a factor, even creatively or indirectly, Harvard may be signaling a more cautious path forward for other universities grappling with similar pressures. However, it also raises tough questions for the university. How will it maintain the level of diversity it has historically championed? How will underrepresented students perceive the institution in the coming years? Will the school's racial and socio-economic diversity suffer? Admissions experts say the answer lies in adaptation. Harvard and similar institutions will likely have to evolve their recruitment and admissions strategies, perhaps by placing greater emphasis on personal essays, background stories, and life experiences that highlight how race and identity have shaped a student's journey without violating legal limits. The bigger picture, a national crossroads. Harvard's move is just one part of a national debate that's only getting louder. As colleges and universities adjust to a post-affirmative action era, the core question is, what does fairness really mean in college admissions? Is it fair to consider race if it helps address generations of inequality and opens doors for students who might otherwise be left out? Or is fairness about treating every student the same, regardless of background, and focusing solely on test scores and GPAs? There's no easy answer. What's clear is that this issue is far from settled, legally, politically, or socially. Policymakers, educators, students, and families will all have a role to play in shaping what the next generation of higher education looks like. Will it be more inclusive, more competitive, more equitable, or none of the above? Final thoughts. Harvard University's rejection of the petition to revise its admissions policy and reconsider race as a factor represents a pivotal moment in American education. It underscores the complexity of balancing merit, diversity, fairness, and legality, especially in an environment where each of those values can mean something different to different people. As this story continues to unfold, one thing is clear: the conversation about race, equity, and opportunity in higher education is not over. If anything, it's just beginning a new chapter. Want to dive deeper into college admissions, prep smarter, or upgrade your study gear? Check out the links in the description below. I've handpicked some of the best books, tools, and resources to help you stay informed, get ahead, and succeed, whether you're applying to college or just love learning. Affiliate links support the channel at no extra cost to you. Thanks for your support. Thanks for sticking with us through this important discussion. If you found this breakdown helpful or insightful, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss future updates on major education and policy stories. And as always, stay informed, stay curious, and stay engaged. Until next time, take care.